Good afternoon. I'm Corky Kessler, and we're at the Vega Luna Beach Club. And as I've said before on the other panels, this is a gorgeous day. This is a place that you all have to come to when you come to Cannes. And I want to thank Paramax Films for the producing services for these seminars. This is a panel on distribution, and it's very interesting because you make your movie, and it took you so long to get the money to make your movie. You have finished the final cut of your movie, and then you go to a distributor who convinces you that they're the right distributor and find out that they haven't done anything for you to get your movie sold. How do you respond to that? Okay, so to my left is Avtar. Tell us a little about you.
Well, that doesn't really apply to us. That's the reason
That's
why
what
we're in.
everyone said.
That's the reason why we're in the business. We're essentially a filmmaking company that's been making movies since the last 45 years. About 20 odd years ago, we made what is the longest-running film today in Indian cinema history. It's still showing in Bombay 21 years after it first released. So, sorry.
The title?
The title is a bit of a tongue twister. It's called Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, which broadly means the brave heart will take the bride. And with that film, we ran into the same kind of distributor that you just described. So we actually entered the distribution world quite by chance because we wanted to control our own destiny and basically started doing our own film. So today, we have our distribution all over India. We have 12 distribution offices in India. We have a distribution office in New York, in London, Dubai, and then we deal with about 50 other countries outside of those. But ours has been a classic case of sort of really the necessity to control our own destiny and make sure that we look after our own films.
Richard, tell us about you.
I'm the CEO of Breaking Glass Pictures. We've been in business about 8 years. We have a catalog of about 330 movies. We run an international distribution company also. Produce 2 films a year, release about 40, all platforms, theatrical, on down.
Do you like distributing better than you like producing?
Yeah, because we release 3 to 4 films a month, when you never know exactly when the film is going to be finished and producing. So I think we're a much better distributor. We're more of a money producer. We send a check, and I say, don't screw it up, and call us when it's done.
Daisy,
Hello.
tell me something about you. Although I probably know a lot about your
Yes.
company. But
Daisy Hamilton from Tri-Coast Worldwide. We started doing foreign sales. Company's been around for 30 years, and as of the past 2 years, we've started doing distribution in the United States as well, doing all platform release, theatrical release for docs, and just really good feature films. And so, yeah, we too really like distribution, and similar to Avtar, our CEOs used to make films and then decided that they really wanted to get more into the distribution and sales of it. But it's not an easy market to break into. It takes a lot of capital to build the infrastructure in order to do it. There's a lot that goes into marketing. A lot of people think it's easy. You make a film, you put it out there, people will love it. Well, how do they find out about it and all of that stuff? So it's almost like inviting a pretty girl to the prom, and now you have to dress her up and make her look good. So you kind of have to do the same thing with films, and
I like
I
that
think that's
analogy.
fun.
yeah, me too. Well, there's a question that I have, and I want to sort of give a background story. I became an attorney for a distribution company during Sundance about 6 years ago. And I'm not going to name the distribution company, but a very fine distribution company. And I brought the CEO to my final dinner when I go to Sundance is always at Robert Redford's restaurant, Zoom. And Robert Redford sets aside a table for me for 10 people, so I invited her. A distributor, me, and 8 filmmakers. And I just got hired, and I said to her, there are 8 people here who think you're going to take advantage of them. Tell them how and why you're not. And she was very amazing. She didn't know I was going to ask that question, but she handled herself very well. I also there are few distribution companies that I've worked with or that I know enough about. Tri-World is a great distribution company. Tri-Coast, that I have worked with and that has done one of my clients' movies. I've looked at your stuff, Richard. So when somebody comes to you with their movie, are there things that you look for in a particular movie? Is it solely talent driven, or are there other aspects that you look at? Richard, start.
Well, thank you. It's a really good question. And earlier you mentioned, how do you convince a producer or director that you're the right company for them? We've taken a little bit different approach in the last 3 years. We insist on having a lengthy telephone call or an in-person with the producers, because there's usually several, and basically qualify them before we'll agree to take on a film. Meaning, they're not taught for a small genre film. They're not talking about a qualifying, release, qualifying for the Oscars. That their expectations really meet with the same level of where the film is, because there's nothing worse than taking a horror film and they want to know what our plans are for their Oscar campaign. So for the first part is we interview them as much as they interview us.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, a project comes to you. Mm-hmm. You love the project. Are you able to guarantee a certain number of screens?
Yeah, so that's all in the contract. So when we have these discussions and put together a contract, we'll put in the minimum number of screens. We cap the expenses, so if we go over, or there's a need to go over it, that it has to be in writing. So, we're really deliberate in, how we address these things, because you want to spend the right amount of money. So the film is maximized. You don't want to overspend, because, of course, the distributor's recouping and the producers are still waiting. So we pretty much know what cities to go into, discuss it with the producers, and make it so everybody's happy. The one thing that's becoming much more important is having cast support. As it's a crowded market, that we try to have that pretty much solidified when we're talking about how many theaters we're going into and the whole rollout, because when cast supports, you have a chance for a much better release.
Daisy, do you look at Netflix or Amazon or AOL as an outlet?
Of course, I think you have to. I think they've become increasingly very important in what you call like the windowing of a film. So you start with theatrical, and then you go to all of your other. I don't want to get too complicated in it, but your EST, which is electronic sell-through. Then you do your iTunes, your Amazon, and then you do your Netflix. However, you can have a Netflix original if let's say you get into Sundance and they pick up your film, and then they're going to release it either at the same time as the theatrical or instead of a theatrical, and depending on how much they're offering you, that might be a good deal. It's just very important that whatever distribution company you're looking at or you choose to go to, that they are direct with what you call the vendors. So us as a company, and I'm sure these guys both are, we're direct with iTunes and Amazon. We don't have to go through a sub-distributor, because a sub-distributor is then going to take another little chunk of that money. However, at the same time, it's also kind of important, like for our physicals, we go through Universal, which is, we're happy to give them, they do a great job in that, far better than we could if we were trying to get DVDs into Walmart. Walmart will buy a bigger amount from them. So the right kind of partners is very important. But I will say, back to what Rich is saying, when you're doing a theatrical, it's incredibly important to really analyze how many screens you're thinking of doing, because each screen has a certain dollar amount. And like he said, that money is recouped first. So sometimes we even try to test films, because you can learn so much about a film and really get fine-tune who the audience is, and then spend money a little bit more appropriately, or very, very detailed. Yeah.
My first movie, The Sum of Us, it was the 1994 first positive gay content movie made. I negotiated a deal with a major distributor. I won't necessarily name the distributor, because the story I'm going to tell is not necessarily a very favorable one. And we had our sales agent screen it at one of the theaters at the Sunset 5. That's in Los Angeles. And after this movie, we were cornered by 5 distributors, and they took one of us each, and they were trying to convince us that they could distribute the film. I went with a distribution company, which again I won't name, and I negotiated a 20% gross position.
That's incredibly impressive and unheard of.
Okay, so, and that's an important statement to bring back, because I'll tell you what happened. I negotiated 20% gross. So, my first movie.
Off of $1?
Off of $1.
Not costs off top?
No fee, no cost, no gross. 20% gross.
Order.
So everyone's congratulating me, and the first accounting comes. And this is my first movie. I would not look at the first accounting. There's sales, but there's not a check. And so I called the person who was in charge of the accounting, and I said, "Where's my check?" He said, "Well, we haven't recouped our expenses."
Costs off top.
And we did a fee. I said, "Have you ever seen my contract?" He said, "No." So I said, "Why don't you get my contract, and then we'll have another discussion." He got my contract. He says, "Oh my God, we've never done that, and I couldn't realize it would ever do that." And he sent the check, and he apologized. And the second accounting comes, sales. There's no check. I had to call the same guy again and remind him. The chance of you ever doing that is very slight, and it really was a very telltale sign, is that if you do anything that's so extraordinary, unusual, or abnormal, the people down the line that haven't seen the contract aren't going to know enough to really.
Yeah, I mean, as Richard said earlier, I think the biggest issue is always that managing expectations. As producers, I always say this, and I mean no disrespect to the producers, because we're producers as well, but making the movie is the easy part.
Yes.
It's when you have to go and sell it. Now, when you have a big blockbuster, with all due respect, my 11-year-old nephew will be able to go and sell that film.
Right.
But it's when you have a movie that doesn't have the star cast, it doesn't come with a hype, and that's when your job really kicks in as a distributor. 9 times out of 10, whether it's sales agents or whether it's distributors, what I always find is that they take it on, and then what you have is you meet them after 6 months at various festivals, and they say, "Yeah, didn't quite work out." By then, your film's now 6 months old, you're not even able to do anything with it.
Do all of you feel that there's a purpose and there's a need to be a consultant in the development phase?
Yes.
For a fee?
Yes.
For a fee?
No, we don't charge fees. I mean, as long as there's sort of an understanding that if you're going to be putting in this effort early on, that you're going to be working together once the hoping the film gets made. We don't charge our filmmakers.
I know it's a cliche that it's teamwork, But the collaborative
Yes.
process is very important right from the outset. And if that
Right, 'cause
happens,
there's like some actors, right, that they didn't care about that role and they got some random guy, but if they had gotten, let's say, Rutger Hauer, we might have been able to sell Scandinavia for a great price. So that, you really can help. And I don't think it's about threatening the creative themes of the film. It's really about helping build a package that we're talking to the buyers around the world all day long. We know what they will pay for and we know what they won't. So we're trying to instill that knowledge so it strengthens the package.
Why do you think not enough filmmakers know or feel comfortable talking to a distributor and know about that they can
They're
get these?
usually looking for money. So they're so blinded by this need. Just fund me, instead of like, all right, actually, I could maybe use some of your wisdom in helping create this strong package. And then it's a lot easier to get money once you've molded a really good package.
Do you think a letter of intent, which is not binding, but a letter of intent from a distribution company would help in the fundraising stage?
yeah, I mean,
I think it
does.
should.
It does. As I say, it doesn't really apply to us because we finance our own films.
Yeah.
So we don't really go out looking for finance.
But would you finance a film that didn't have distribution attached?
We would, because we'd take over the film.
I mean,
So
if you weren't you are a distributor, so it's hard to say. But if I had a finance hat on, I would think that's pretty risky.
we did a movie a couple of years ago. The script had been knocking around for about 5 years. Nobody wanted to fund it. We went out and made it and became a sleeper hit, and it was great. But ultimately, I think to answer your earlier question, one of the reasons why filmmakers, and it's not just about the money, I honestly believe that as filmmakers, as writers, directors, or whatever, they are in a different mindset and
Yes.
they do work in a different world. And for them, that script is sacred. And so when you have marketing or sales or distribution people come in and start to say, well, what about this and what about that? And they feel that you're actually perhaps overstepping that mark and you're stepping on their toes. And to an extent, they might be right, but ultimately, they're going to make that film, they're going to hand it over to the sales and the marketing people to go out and sell it. So I think that collaborative effort at the outset goes a long way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I just to add to that, I think another important thing here is finding a distributor or sales agent that you really jive with, or you get along with. And that's when suddenly collaboration becomes very easy.
I think it depends totally on the director and the screenwriter. Some of them are like, we get people coming to us saying, hey, could you read this? Can you make some suggestions? There's certain things. Like, I always remember we had a film and there was a dog being killed in the film. That is something you want to stay away from because animal lovers don't want to see this. Sometimes there's just little subtle things that people don't realize, unless you've been releasing for a couple of decades and you go, okay, this doesn't work. There's certain things that appear that they would work and should work. They just don't. And so I think it's pretty much, it depends on the person.
I mean, does it matter who sends it to you? Meaning, I'll give you an example. Joe Blow's a filmmaker. The filmmaker is thinking about sending it to you, but the filmmaker has got somebody on his or their team that has credibility in the business. Are you more apt to listen to Joe Blow, the filmmaker, or would you rather that person who's got more credibility contact you?
I think it's the approach. I think whoever I respond best when people are authentic and real, and I don't feel like someone is just trying to get something from me, but I feel like someone's either trying to make a friend or make a genuine, authentic business contact. So I don't think, it is good and helpful to have seasoned people on your team, and I do look at that. But I would say that, whenever people reach out to me, I prefer that they come from a place of sincerity and a place of let's be a teamwork. Let's do teamwork. Let's not, I don't just want something from you,
Yeah, and look, you put effort in when really you don't get any results unless you sell. Sure. From a realistic standpoint, right. You're the ones that are really, really taking the big risk because you don't get your percentages unless they're actual sales. So,
and we get all the blame.
Corky, you're a lawyer, and how many times have you picked up your phone, person's not a client, might be a new person and they have a question. Yeah, you like the person, you give them some free time. You know he can't afford your rate, but you've instilled some goodwill. And I mean, we're on our 5th film with a Joe Blow who called us out of out of nowhere. We licensed his first film worldwide for very little money. We made a lot of money. He guilted us into funding his 2nd and 3rd film, and he did another, and we're working with him on his 5th. So,
look, as much as I'm a lawyer, I more oftentimes wear a business hat when I'm starting out on a project. There's no lawyer hat on because I'm the one that is pretty much building the team. I'm the one that might go to any of you for advice. But at the end of the day, I can't do that and won't do that unless I believe that the project I'm sending is marketable. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste yours because I've got one shot.
Sure.
If I send you something that really is not good, you're going to question me the first time. Second time, you're going to say, don't ever send me something because I'm not going to review it. So at the end of the day, and final comment because he wants to cut, one quick comment from each of you.
I kind of like where the direction of the business is going. It's, we change our business model basically every 90 days. And with the new Amazon program that's been instituted at South by and Tribeca and some other festivals moving ahead this year, I mean, it's changed the way that of which films that we're looking at, how we're looking at them. There's always the, platform du jour, and, every 90 days there's something new happening, So it's challenging. The day of the 5-year business plan is dead.
A final comment.
Well, the way I see it is, I think whether it's creative or business, sales or making films, I think if you don't take your audiences for granted and your customer is fools, you just be sincere to them, you will do the numbers and it will work.
Daisy, final comment.
So to paraphrase Aristotle, any good story can be summed up in 2 sentences and elicit an emotional reaction, like, and so that it's always amazing when we get pitches or films that you can do that with. So,
and final comment from me, we need all of you. We need all of you to.
That's really reassuring.
it's an ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, we need you. And people really don't understand the fact that on all my projects, I go to distribution first. I get a feel. I get a comment. They're the first ones to look at a project and say, Corky, run away from it. I mean, they're going to be honest. They're going to tell me that this, or they're going to say, this is not only so good, but I want to put money into it as to be a true partner in it. And you don't know if that's going to happen unless you test it. And the final comment is never take no for your final answer. You be persistent and continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.